Hello, hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where in today's video, we are walking and talking you through the key topic areas that you need to know for your advanced audit and assurance examination, along with the professional skills. And I know just the gentleman who's going to walk and talk us through all those key areas. So Ben, feel free to quickly introduce yourself, my friend.
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Wilson. If you haven't met me already, I'm the ACCA's expert tutor for AAA, so you are in super safe hands for today's content.
Easy peasy, Ben. I mean, students are there, pen and paper, but if we've got a student that's coming to us and saying, advanced audit and assurance, James, you famously admitted on your channel that you failed it first time round and then came back to pass it. What are those key topic areas, Ben? Where are we going to kick us off for today?
Sure. Well, the AAA exam is super predictable in terms of the topic areas. So you will always get a big question on audit risk.
Yes.
Normally 15 to 20 marks, right? So you've got to be a master of audit risk. So understand it, and you'll get 3 marks for a well-explained audit risk if you know what you're doing with good technique. So you've got to be good at that. You will also always be asked about audit procedures. Normally 5 to 10 marks in the exam. So again, if you've got a good technique in procedures, you'll smash it. Ethics always comes up.
Yeah.
Normally 5 to 10 marks across the exam paper.
Yeah, got to nail
And that
those.
and it's very applied ethics. It's not like in some of the lower level exams where it's, can you write a definition of a self-interest threat? It'll be very much in context of a scenario. So you have to kind of explain why a self-interest threat particularly exists given this scenario. So those topics, so risk, procedures, and ethics, you will always see them in question 1 of the exam, the big 50 marker. Right?
Lovely stuff. It's all flooding back to me now on that resit exam on there, but
good memories, I hope, James.
Oh, it's all right. Lots of hours in the library in the evening. But what are we talking about for the other key syllabus areas that if a student isn't confident and competent on them, they're going to be at a disadvantage going into their exam?
So the other one that is super predictable and will be on every exam and will be the focus of one of the questions is reporting. So you will be asked something like, can you critically evaluate an extract from an audit report? Or given a scenario, can you tell me what the correct audit opinion should be? And maybe tell me some details about other paragraphs in the audit report, like key audit matters or an emphasis of matter paragraph. Yes. So there'll always be one question that has a reporting focus. But in recent years, the reporting has gone from being like 15 to 20 marks down to often like only 5 marks in that question. It'll always be tested, but it's increasingly getting less and less. And what they're beefing those questions up with is combining it with a quality management question. So you're told, we're at the end of the audit, you've done all this work already, and here's an extract of the file. Can you comment on how well this audit has been done? And some of it will be done well. I mean, a little bit of it will be good, but a lot of it will be rubbish, right? It'll be a poorly performed audit. And the examiner loves these questions because there's not like just a short list of, there's only 3 or 4 things that could go wrong on an audit. There's thousands, right? So it's not like you can just learn, these are the 3 things to look for, right? You have to have that skill of being able to go into the scenario and pick out that, okay, that looks like a problem based on my judgment, based on my understanding of this scenario, my understanding of the subject. That's not the right person to have done that work, or that evidence they got isn't robust enough, or there wasn't sufficient review of this or done by the right review by an appropriately qualified person because it's such a difficult area. So that second question tends to be reporting with quite a lot of quality management coming into it.
Thinking on your feet as well. And I love how you mentioned on there about please don't expect it to be all sunshine and rainbows in the exam where everything's perfect and running smoothly, thinking on your toes, referring back to the scenario. These are all the things that help me pass
absolutely
time on there.
I mean, it's a great, if your mindset in AAA is, I'm not going to write anything that I've memorized and it's in here, and everything I write is going to be driven by something I'm taking from the scenario, that's an effective way to pass this exam.
Spot on there. And in terms of other sort of syllabus areas that you take your students through, what are the things spring to
What
mind?
else? Yeah, so I've covered the ones that always come up, right? So
Hmm.
question one, risk, procedures, ethics. Question two, reporting and quality management, right? Question three of the exam is where you get tested on everything else, right? And it's a much wider, it's less predictable, but very typical things are that you might be asked about a non-audit engagement. So it might
Hmm.
be there's a fraud that's taken place at a company,
Yeah.
and you've got to assess what went wrong, why was there this fraud, and what procedures might we do to address it. Or they might give you something like, we're going to do a due diligence assignment because one company is buying another, and you've got to assess the forecasts of this company and say if they're any good. So the third question is, there's quite a broad range of topics that could be tested there. And I mean, I guess you've got one of two ways to go, right? You either go, I need to memorize everything on the syllabus and be ready for anything,
Mm.
and lots and lots of work. Or
Yeah.
you go, do you know what? I'll be good on those core topics that's going to cover 75% of the exam. And then for the rest of it, I'll rely on my exam technique skills. And if you're good at exam technique, you can cope with whatever they throw at you.
Yeah. Oh
So
gosh.
that's my advice.
Oh, fantastic. No, no, absolutely spot on. It's all flooding back to me now as to when I was going through this in my revision, it was technical articles because I wasn't from an audit background or anything on those lines. And I think what really changed it for me was having a clearer picture in my mind of that audit process, start to finish, the risk management with it as well, and just putting yourself in the shoes of the scenario to say, right, what if that was me there? What would I do
Yeah.
in that professional situation?
Yeah, it's a good tip. And exam articles are useful for AAA, but it's not like some of the other strategic professional exams where they'll really test you on the detail of them. It's more, as you described, James, they're there for kind of background context, like
Yeah.
if you're not in an audit environment, so you get a bit more of an understanding. But something else that's really helpful as a kind of sort of practical tool to get your understanding up is looking at the actual audit reports of real companies. Listed companies, in their audit report, there's loads of detail that's given, and if you read a few of them, so a recent one that's really interesting is Superdry, the clothing brand, because there were lots of problems with that audit. And actually, by reading the audit report, you get more of an understanding of what went on during the audit, and then what they found and what impact that had on what the auditors report to the market. But by reading real world audit reports and having a good think about them, it really helps to build your understanding and context around the subject.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. And especially that again reminds me of specific dates when the audit started, who was involved in the process, their sort of seniority level. And then you get into the ethics of it as well, where they give you nuggets of information.
Mm.
All of this is exam technique that as well builds with looking at real life companies. And then, of course, past papers, CBE practice, all the rest of it on there.
Yeah, and actually on the point about past papers, super important to do, but the exam changed quite dramatically in September 22. So the new professional skills marks were brought in. We've got a different examiner now for AAA. And so if you look at any old past exams, so anything that's before September 22, it's really different in style, and not that helpful for your practice.
Right,
By
spot on.
far the best ones to do are the exams that have been released post September 22, because they're the current style. So those are the ones you really want to focus on.
Spot on. And just to dive into those professional marks a bit more, because it's one of the areas that I get tons of questions on. And I can tell the students just like, James, ask him about the professional skills marks. How do you approach it with your students, Ben? How do you walk and talk it through and to get them to apply them correctly when it comes to
Sure.
the exam?
So they broadly fall into two categories within AAA. Right? So there are some that are always on every single marking scheme. When you look at the recent past exam papers, those ones are always there. So the kind of home banker ones that you really want to make sure you're doing these things because you know you're going to get marked for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second category is they vary quite a lot. You can't quite predict what's going to be in there, but you look at it and go, if I'd put that in my answer, I would have been right. It's a really strong point, right? Oh, that's a really good one. That student has really developed their answer to kind of think of something extra. Those ones are much harder to earn. So with good exam technique and writing the right sort of things, you might earn some of these in the second category. But the ones that are in the first bucket, the super predictable ones, having a process that you go through to make sure that you earn them means you're going to get, maybe half of the professional skills marks fall into that category. So you're well on your way to picking up marks to pass if you earn those ones.
Spot on. And just for some clarity for the guys listening, we're talking there about how you communicate your answers, the professional style of how you're writing it on there. Would you agree on that?
Yeah. There's 4 for communication skills marks. They're always awarded in question 1 of the exam, and that's for setting out things like, it's briefing notes you have to do in question 1. So the right format, using subheadings, professional language, that sort of thing. For doing things like making sure that you answer the specific question that's being asked. So they will always make the question a bit odd, or say, don't do this. So don't discuss risks around foreign exchange. And so if you do discuss risks around foreign exchange, you don't get that mark. So make sure you really, really precisely follow what the question is asking. Making sure you do things like analyze the information. So every point in your answer should be based on a fact from the scenario. Absolutely no speculation at all. So everything, start with a fact and then analyze it. Other ones of things like in question 1, you have to prioritize your top 2 risks. And that's just basically saying these are my biggest ones for this reason. And it'll be because it's a particularly material risk or a massive problem for some reason. So I've prioritized these top 2. Things like calculating materiality in the way that the partner in the question has asked you to do. Again, that's on every single question 1 professional skills marking scheme. So if you follow the instruction, you get that mark.
Spot on. Oh, indeed. And just to highlight on there, using specific figures from the scenario. It's all coming back on my exam technique now. And then from that, explaining and also linking to why, plus using any of the, you'll know this, that you get the key buzzwords in the requirement, such as like level of risk on there as well. Anything to do with a certain particular area the examiner wants you to focus in on. Use the keywords to shape your answer, and then you'll be absolutely spot on, I would say, from it.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Oh, that's
yeah,
all right.
I mean, they're often really precise in the requirements. So it won't just say, tell me audit procedures about infantry. It will say, tell me audit procedures that will give me comfort over the valuation of infantry. And so the key word in there, as you would describe, James, is valuation. So when you're writing your procedure, you've got to explain how this test will help you to say the value of the infantry is correct. And if you bring it back to that key word that was in the requirement, by referring back to the requirement, it then helps you to make sure your answer is going to be targeted at scoring that mark.
Spot on. And then the marker's going to read it and go, fantastic. They're aligned in.
That's what I was looking for.
Exactly. But Ben, are there any other final key points, syllabus areas that you've got to get on record that could help a student get those extra few marks to get the 50 plus they need to pass advanced audit assurance?
The other tip I would give is, so I spent many years working as an examiner for ICAW. And I know you know ICAW, James, but if anyone doesn't, it's like ACCA, but not as good. Anyway, I was the audit examiner for ICAW, and I used to write, after the exams, you'd write the examiner's report, where you are saying to students, this is what the ones who passed did well. Right? And the ones who failed, this is what they did badly. And it's your way as the examiner of being able to communicate with those students who aren't passing and saying, please do these things. I really want you to pass. I hate failing students. I want you to get through. And I'm telling you what you need to do to get through. That examiner's report, and ACCA published them after each set of exams that are published, it is full of great advice from the examiner saying, please do this. Please do this. And if you do it, I will pass you. But many students don't use them sufficiently. So make sure you are really digesting the recent examiners' reports, because they're so valuable.
Absolutely spot on, Ben. I can't agree more. That was one of the things I did after failing it the first time. And I just went, so many mistakes, James. This is just you on here. But I must say, Ben, thank you so much for all of your insights today, for sharing them with the guys. I've put Ben's details, everyone, in the description of this video. Feel free to get in touch on LinkedIn on there. And best of luck for your advanced audit assurance exam. I think they've got this, haven't they, Ben?
Awesome, definitely. Follow the advice, focus on exam technique, you'll smash it.
Lovely. Best of luck, guys, and we'll see you in another video soon. Cheers.